You return to Earth on a Tuesday. No rift of light, no fanfare. One moment you were standing in the ruins of the Demon King's throne room, 7 years of war behind you. And the next, you were in your old bedroom, staring at a water-stained ceiling you hadn't thought about in years. 7 years there, about 7 minutes here. Your body felt wrong, too dense, too full of something Earth had no word for. You looked at your hands, the same ones that had split continents, held the compressed core of a dying star and made it obedient. You made a fist. You let it go. Earth was quiet in a way that felt like a problem. You tried. You got a job, sat in traffic, watched people argue about things so small they had no names in any language you'd learned. You smiled when you were supposed to, slept through nights that felt borrowed. You had unmade gods with your bare hands. A grocery store felt like a dream someone else was having. 3 months in, they found you. You'd noticed the surveillance before they made contact. Satellite repositioning. Unmarked vehicles part 2 blocks too consistently. You let it play out. Curiosity was the closest thing to feeling you'd had in weeks. They came with formal language and black vehicles. Government agency, unspecified. They'd track the anomaly of your return. They knew what you were. They wanted tests first, then access, then control. They wrapped it in the language of national interest and made it sound like a request. It wasn't. You said no. They took your younger brother anyway. Leverage, they called it. The word tasted like ash. You had crossed 7 worlds, outlived empires, shattered realms that rewrote the laws of physics, and they thought leverage would work. They killed him by accident, they would later say. Containment failure. He was gone before you reached the facility. Something cracked open inside you. Not rage, exactly. Rage was a word for people still inside time. What moved through you was older than that. Quieter. The same stillness that exists before a mountain moves. You raised one hand. The facility ceased to exist. They sent soldiers, then jets, then every classified weapons program that had been sitting in silos waiting for exactly this. You let it land. 100-round airstrike across your back. You felt the heat, registered the pressure, kept walking. You had taken hits from entities that shattered moons. This was weather. They escalated. You pulled the sun closer. Not dramatically, a controlled draw. Chi compressed into a sphere, burning white, rotating in your open palm like a small, obedient star. You held it. Then you let it pulse outward. Every weapon within 4 kilometers melted before it could fire. Then came the warheads. 240 nuclear detonations, simultaneous. The light was something. You gave them that. When the smoke cleared, you were standing in a glass crater, body already rebuilding itself at a cellular level you'd long since optimized. You looked at the sky. You summoned. They came through the dimensional fold you'd maintained for years. Beasts bound to you across realms. A scaled war serpent, 1/2 kilometer long that blotted the horizon. Fire wolves that moved like liquid and left nothing behind. An ancient colossus that had once served the Dragon Emperor. Silent, enormous, waiting. The world watched on every screen. The United Nations voted in 4 hours. Every nation, every military alliance, every government that had spent decades unable to agree on anything, agreed on this. You had to end. They came from every direction, carrier fleets offshore, space-based weapons platforms that weren't supposed to exist, coordinated swarms across 3 continents, the full weight of human civilization, unified for the first time in history, aimed at a single point. You. You felt something then. Not fear. Something quieter. Almost like recognition. They were trying. It took 13 days. You dismantled command structures one by one. You didn't kill soldiers where you could avoid it. That surprised people. The architects of this, the ones who had decided your brother was a bargaining chip. Them you found. Every single one. You were thorough. On the 14th day, it ended. Not with a declaration. You simply stopped. The beast folded back into the dimensional rift. The chi you'd been radiating pulled inward. You stood in the ruins of what had been a capital city, smoke on every horizon, and quietly let the power settle. Then you walked away. They searched for years. Satellites, ground teams. Nothing worked. Because the person they were looking for moved like a god and left craters where he stood. Not the figure wrapped in a donated coat, sitting near a fire barrel in a ruined district, eating dried provisions with 4 strangers who didn't ask his name. The world was quieter now, smaller. Most of the large cities were gone. A man across the fire asked where you were from. You told him a place that no longer existed. He nodded like that made sense. The fire crackled. Stars above the ruined skyline were clearer than they'd ever been from here. You said nothing else. You watched the fire. That was enough.